Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, John June. And of course, I got my guy, Greg Penniman. It is Wednesday, October 12th. Greg, what is shaking?
What's going on? Yes, sir. Wednesday, getting ready for Thursday night, week 6. I mean, yeah, it's middle of the season, starting bye weeks now and stuff. So, this is going to be really that money time where you got to sneak in these wins as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely going to have to overcome the bye weeks. Not a mega bye here. We only got 4 teams on the bye with the Detroit Lions, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans, and the Houston Texans. And please, for everything that is good, just do not put those players in your lineup because they won't score you points. Shout out to the Detroit Lions though or Yahoo or whoever it is for keeping DeAndre Swift as out because the man is just chilling in my IR spot. It is lovely.
Dak.
It's a beautiful thing. Tough. It's like an extra roster spot for a whole week, you know? Just I don't have to go through the whole oh man,
he's
questionable. Can they make him go
wait
out?
till he goes out.
We're just chilling now. So it is Wednesday night, which means it is our Thursday night football preview. So we are going to break down some Thursday night football. But before we do that, got to get into streams of the week. And last week was we always do the best that we can here. And last week I think was outside of quarterbacks, I think it was a pretty solid week for us. So let's see if we can recapture that magic, Greg. So who are you going with the quarterback stream of the week this week?
Yeah, the only thing stopping us in streams of the week should be injuries. I mean, but I'm gonna go with Carson Wentz this week, going against the Chicago Bears tomorrow night. 40% rostered. Looking at Chicago's defense is opening up a little bit more on the perimeter. Justin Jefferson had that big game last week. I think with the pace of play that Washington likes to play, they do like to get a lot of pass attempts up. He's Carson Wentz getting almost close to 40 a game, so I think this is a good spot for him here to create some points. As long as he just doesn't get sacked at a high rate, he should have a solid day.
Yeah, I like this one. I like this one so much that I also am going with Carson Wentz, again, who's 48% rostered in Yahoo leagues. Yeah, the last 3 weeks, Chicago's 13th. They allow the 13th most fantasy points to the quarterback position. Wentz struggled 2 of the last 3 weeks. But if you look at his season as a whole, he's actually done well in good matchups, right? You look at what he did last week against Tennessee. His other 2 big games were against Detroit and Jacksonville, 2 defenses we know that we can attack through the air. And so Carson Wentz has done well when it's ripe for the picking. And so I'm all in on Carson Wentz as much as you can be all in on Carson Wentz this week. So yeah, the matchup is good. And in a week without Jared Goff, no Derek Carr, I think Carson Wentz is a fine streaming option and somebody that can finish in the top 12 range for you.
Yeah, especially if the offense decides to put up points too, then it could be for a little shootout.
Yeah, and I like what you said. I mean, about the pace of play. The Washington football team, or the Commanders rather, they rank in the top 12 in no huddle usage on early downs in the first 3 quarters. So a neutral game script. So that's showing that they want to go fast, and even if Chicago does put up points, that means that they could end up going faster. So definitely like that. Greg, what are we doing at tight end this week with the tight end streams of the week?
Tight end, it's always tough. I think you gotta look at someone who can possibly get hot, and I think it's going to be Evan Ingram versus Indy, a vulnerable defense to the tight end position. He's 29% rostered, and then you just got to look at his usage. I mean, he's a guy that's getting about 5 targets a game this year, coming off 10 targets last week, which were top 5 of tight ends getting targets. So these are guys being used, especially even in a low scoring game that was. Trevor Lawrence looks to him. So I think he can get some targets here. And, you don't want someone to kill your day. Taysom Hill is off the board, so got to get Evan Ingram.
Yeah, Taysom Hill after his monstrous day, definitely off the board. It's crazy. I got outbid for him in 2 leagues, and he was basically free last week. So
crazy
stuff. I'm also going with Evan Ingram, 29% roster Yahoo leagues. Indianapolis is the matchup. They allow the 9th most fantasy points to the tight end position over these last 3 weeks. And that's pretty impressive because they played Denver and Tennessee the last 2 weeks, and those 2 teams don't utilize the tight end at all. So they did play Travis Kelce the week before. I'm not going to lie. I don't have the numbers in front of me. So I don't remember if that was a big Travis Kelce game. Greg, do you remember that was the game? I know that was the game that Kansas City lost in Indy. Travis Kelce had a touchdown.
It was probably an average game.
He had a touchdown. He dropped another one.
Yeah. I'm sure. I think that's the game he ended with like 10 points, maybe.
Yeah. So they give up the 9th most fantasy points, having played Travis Kelce and 2 teams that don't utilize the tight end. So I'm willing to play Ingram, who, like you talked about, performed well last week. And over these last 3 weeks is seeing a pretty healthy 15% target share. So, yeah, definitely somebody that if you're hurting, no TJ Hawkinson, no Darren Waller, roll that guy out there for sure.
Yeah.
Greg, what are you doing at your defensive stream of the week this week?
Defensive stream week, there are a lot of options for sure, but I'm going to go with Cincinnati versus New Orleans. Cincinnati top 10 in takeaways, 8 this season, and it just matches up well with the fact that New Orleans is the top team as far as giveaways. They give the ball over the most in the league at 13. They have the lowest turnover differential at -8. So a team that's used to giving up some turnovers, I think Cincinnati can create some. It should be fair scoring game, but I think Cincinnati won't kill you, and they could create some stuff.
Yeah, it's there's definitely options out there. None of them that I feel great about though from a defensive perspective. When I put these guys, these defenses in my lineup, but for my defensive stream of the week, I know I usually the last 3 weeks I've been attacking Chicago. This week I'm gonna do a little different though. I'm going to go with Chicago. They are home. They are favored. So that's good process. Carson Wentz, like you talked about, does get sacked. Also does some reckless things sometimes with the football.
He does.
Washington is initially where I wanted to go to keep up, obviously, with that theme of going against Justin Fields, who is one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. But just like last week when we talked about going with Tennessee, actually, I did go Tennessee last week. I wanted to go Minnesota, but Tennessee was the choice because Minnesota was over the roster threshold. But like we talked about with Carson Wentz, he also does take a lot of sacks as well. So Chicago, if Chase Young was healthy and going, then
that makes a huge
feel
difference.
A lot better about going Washington as my defensive stream. But Washington's been a bad defense as well, and like we saw with Minnesota last week, who Minnesota is a bad defense, and I'm sure we know that. We'll talk about that as the weeks go on, but which is nice that they're a bad defense because they got a good offense. So it's a great combination for fantasy. But in terms of Washington here, them being a bad defense, I'd rather just go with the home favorites here, in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, that game could go either be a nice scoring-wise game like, how we thought that Cleveland game would, or it could be very ugly where a lot of turnovers are made. So either defense could be an option.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, let's talk about some news and some injuries before we get into Thursday night football because there are some things to talk about. You know, obviously we're gonna talk about some of these games tomorrow, but Tua's out, Teddy Bridgewater's out. So rookie Skylar Thompson will get a start this week for the Miami Dolphins. I can't for the life of me remember who they play off the top of my head.
Minnesota, which is what I was also thinking about them for defense shooter week 2, possibly, even though they're bad. Always playing a 7th-round draft pick is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, definitely an option. But yeah, with Skylar Thompson starting, we will obviously talk about the game and whatnot. But you I guess if you had Tua, you were already making plans anyway. But James Conner, the ribs, he didn't practice. Cliff Kingsbury talked about how he wasn't concerned, but they've been signing running backs to their practice squad. I think they did lose a running back, actually, another running back, Jonathan Ward, I believe, to send him to IR. But Benjamin, I know Greg, obviously you talked about him during the waiver show as being somebody that we got to talk that we got to go out and grab. So that's kind of all wheels up for him. And then the rest of these injuries kind of come from this Thursday night game that we're going to talk about. That's not entirely true. Cooper Kupp didn't practice with a foot, so he's expected to play. They do have a bye next week after this game this week against the Carolina Panthers, where they're 10.5-point favorites. So if you do have Cooper Kupp, just have a contingency plan ready there for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Thursday night football. Obviously, if you are listening, watching, however you are consuming this show, we definitely appreciate it. Just make sure you comment, like, subscribe, whether you listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or watching on YouTube, where we are also live on YouTube as well as Twitter and Twitch. So, yes, make sure you do all that fun, cool stuff. And now we can talk about some Thursday night football as the 1-4 Washington Commanders travel to Chicago to take on the 2-3 Chicago Bears. This game has a 38.5-point total, where the Chicago Bears are 1.5-point home favorites. In terms of the weather, no weather concerns here. In terms of injuries, I know we talked about Chicago secondary. They actually get cornerback Jalen Johnson back, who is their best corner. Was out since week 2 or so, returns from a quad injury. Matthew Adams, linebacker, he was placed on injured reserve with a calf. For Washington, running back Jonathan Williams, he's out with the knee. Wide receiver Jahan Dotson out with the hamstring. And tight end Logan Thomas is out of this game with a calf. Cornerback William Jackson out with a back. Offensive tackle Sam Cosmi out with I have actually no idea what the injury is. And then safety Percy Butler is also out in this game. Greg, where are you going with this matchup here?
I think I'm going to take the over. This is tough. I'm going to take Chicago to win, though. It's covering Chicago to win. I think them being at home will give them the advantage. They are 2-0 at home this year. Washington now hasn't won a game on the road this year as well. Seem to get a little motivated. I think rely on the run game. So for them, I do love Devin Montgomery in this matchup. He's RB1. We know when he's healthy and he's active, he's going to get these touches and will work. So he looked good last week in his return. So I'm starting him. As far as the receivers, the only one I'm maybe willing to play is Darnell Mooney as a low and deep league flex, but I still am not touching anything other than Dave Montgomery, I think, unless you're really desperate. On the Washington side, Carson Wentz, we both like him as stream of the week. So I think he gets some opportunities here to, not to kill your day, get about 250 yards, maybe 2 touchdowns. Yeah, and Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson. I think slowly but surely, I think we'll start to see Brian Robinson get used more and more. I'm still more, I think, in a wait and see mode to his blow up game. But as far as Antonio Gibson, you probably would throw him out there as the guy. I'm leaning towards. He's starting to get. Also, he's gonna getting special team touches now. Now that Brian Robinson is in there, so soon Brian Robinson, I think, is just going to eventually take this lead, but I think he's about a week or two away. Receivers, Terry McLaurin, playing him. As far as there, Justin Jefferson had a big day, so I think whoever gets, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, I think those guys you can rely on as wide receiver twos. Curtis Samuel, I think, still has the higher upside, getting a steady amount of touches, targets, and yeah, that's about it for me.
Yeah, I am going to take the over. I'm gonna do something weird and take Washington to cover 1.5, but take Chicago to win because I just feel like this game is going to be like that close.
Yeah, I
Could
think
even
the line even
tie.
moved to even. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
This line is according to FanDuel Sportsbook and hashtag not a sponsor. But on the Chicago side, I will take Dave Montgomery. Absolutely, I agree with your assessment. I think he's an RB2 with definite RB1 upside. Washington is actually, they've been decent against the run, but they struggle as a pass defense, which definitely puts Monty in line for some touchdown opportunities because whether they're moving the ball down the field, or however they're moving it down the field, Montgomery's, he's going to be involved in that, and when they score touchdowns, he'll be involved in that as well. Justin Fields, he's a QB2, played well last week in a good matchup, could do it again here. Might be an option for you in 2 quarterback leagues. I almost went full tilt and put, rage benched Russell Wilson for Justin Fields for tomorrow. But I, my better self took over, and I didn't rage bench just Russell Wilson. So yeah, there we go. Justin Fields definitely in play as a QB2, especially in 2 quarterback leagues with a couple of guys on bye, like we talked about. On the Washington side, Carson Wentz, borderline QB1, obviously our stream of the week, so we like him. On the in terms of wide receivers, me and you are on the same page here. Curtis Samuel, he's still the wide receiver to play. 21% target share the last 3 weeks. Terry McLaurin has an 18% target share the last 2 weeks. So, the last 3 weeks, so not too far behind Curtis Samuel. That could flip flop either way, but this is just from a perspective. If I have both these guys, like which one would I want to play? And that answer would be Curtis Samuel, just because of the volume. Although Terry McLaurin is playing the higher leverage role, 14.8% or 14.48 averaging 14.8 yards per reception. So I don't know. Has he scored yet?
Terry McLaurin, yeah, he has 1 touchdown
in week 1, right?
Week 1, yeah, man,
crazy to me. Anyway, so Diami Brown
leads
has
the teams in receiving yards though, so
he leads the team in receiving yards.
Still, yeah,
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that means touchdowns should be coming at some point, man. They really have to. Diami Brown, he has a role with Jahan Dotson out, although he's going to continue to be a wide receiver 3, I think. Or the matchup is not very good for him per se, but I think that. What am I saying? No, the matchup is fine. You can play Diami Brown as a desperation flex. Like, all right, would you rather play Diami Brown or Darnell Mooney?
Diami Brown. Yeah.
Diami Brown.
Just for that upside.
The upside of being in the offense, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go Darnell Mooney on that just because at least the targets are going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, he only has 10 catches on the year. Like,
no,
Darnell Mooney has 10 receptions on the year. That's it. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, of that, I mean, his catch rate's got to be so low.
I'm always the last 3 weeks is 50%. I'm always looking through this like short 3-week lens that I like today for the first time I saw the top 5 who's leading the league in receiving yards and who's leading the league in rushing yards and all that stuff. So it's always, that's always fun. But speaking of rushing yards, I think Brian Robinson's time is here. Like I think
it's this week.
I think it's this week. He was I think he's going to be a bit more involved. He had a 53% rush share last week, which if I believe that this is correct, it's either the 3rd or 4th highest that a running back has seen for Washington this season. Obviously, the previous ones are all held by Antonio Gibson. The problem is he only had those 53% was 9 attempts last week in a game in which Tennessee was down or Washington was down and had to play catch up a little bit and air the ball out. But the matchup is nice against Chicago. They over the last 3 weeks, they allowed the 11th most fantasy points to the running back position. So if you're looking for an RB3, you don't have Josh Jacobs, you don't have a DeAndre Swift or Jamal Williams or, Damian Pierce or Derrick Henry.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's prime time. Like the man just
got bro. And like, I don't want to, yeah, right. Like he's coming back. It's prime time.
Yeah, it's prime time. It fits.
Like they're going to talk about it the whole game.
Oh my
God, this kid Brian Robinson. The incredible story.
Yep.
Like, and I hate that we're even doing this right now, but like, yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I'm on board. I believe that.
I'm like in a league. I'm half between going Brian Robinson over James Robinson. I'm really having that conversation right now, going back and forth, and I have until tomorrow to make the decision. So, right now it's Brian Robinson, but do a little bit more digging and analysis tomorrow. Greg, do you have a bold prediction for the people? I can't tell if you are thinking intently, Greg, or if you are currently frozen.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, guess you were thinking intently.
Yeah, I was thinking. I'm gonna say Brian Robinson gets a touchdown, gets a rushing touchdown.
I like that because I put that bet in. I think it was plus 260 when I did, plus 240. I love when our bold predictions are in sync like this because I'm going with Brian Robinson for 60 plus rushing yards. The current line is at 40. At least I saw it on FanDuel Sportsbook at 49.5.
Okay.
But you can get the alternate line at 60 plus rushing yards on FanDuel Sportsbook for plus 148. Again, Chicago, not a very good run defense. Brian Robinson's going to get the touches. I think 60 rushing yards is definitely in play here. And I like the touchdown. I was going to do 60 yards and a touchdown, but Cortland Sutton burned me on that last week. So I was like,
yeah, he got the yardage for you. I mean, that wasn't his fault, though. Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean,
if
Geno Smith was the quarterback, though,
he would have got it. Definitely.
Oh, man, I got to stop doing this to Russ. People are going to think I'm a Russ hater. But in regards to Brian Robinson, over 60 rushing yards, I like that. The touchdown, I like it. If you can get them both, parlay them together, I like that too.
Yeah, that would be a nice hit.
All right, y'all. Well, that was it. We don't have a panic room segment for you today. So we're just gonna kind of close this out here because we are recording this kind of late. It's about to be 9:40 p.m. So, guys, tomorrow, but not this late. Hopefully not this late. But next time, y'all, obviously that's next time is tomorrow. We'll see y'all here live. Or you can listen on podcast platform if you want to, or watch it later on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter.
On demand, baby. On demand.
You said what, Greg?
We on demand at all times.
All times. Right. So, if you want to, like, obviously on your commute to work, you're driving, you want to listen to me and Greg talk about fantasy football. I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that, right? Like, it's the best time you can have, talk about fantasy football. Anyways, much appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. And obviously, we're going to do starts of the week and game previews for the afternoon games on Saturday. So make sure you tap into that. But until next time, y'all, we'll holler at you later. Have a good one. We're out of here. Peace.
Yeah.